Hey guys, and welcome to Costa Week. This is part one of my interview with Costa. Let's get on to the video. Welcome to Mondays with Michaela. So, how have you and your family been doing during this lockdown, and what have you been doing to keep yourself busy and engaged?
Well, look, I've been fortunate in the sense that I've continued to do my filming. We had to adapt a little bit, and we haven't been filming with other people just to reduce the amount of contact. But I suppose what it's meant is I haven't travelled at all. So from the time that this began, I've probably had about 40 events cancelled,
Wow.
which is really difficult for all of those people that, I know, and I regularly do events, or anyone organising an event, as you know, when you organise the film night, there's a lot of involved, and people's livelihoods have been on the line, and so that we've had a few events which basically were canned right at the last minute, but we went virtual, we went live, we did garden tours with Facebook Live. So, people that wouldn't have been there anyway, suddenly there was thousands of people watching these videos. So, I've been going along doing what I do, but I've also had the chance to do a lot more stuff around the house, and I'm in the middle of writing a book at the moment. So,
Wow, that's exciting.
yeah, I've been trying to do that for about, well, from the time I started in television, they've wanted me to write a book. So that's been about 13 years.
Yeah.
But it's just hard when you're out and about doing life the way I do it.
So what's your book about?
It's about what I do. So it's not
Bit of a
purely and about like just prescriptive gardening. There is a lot of prescriptive gardening in there, but there is a lot about why and the motivation to do it.
No.
And the headspace to get out and what is it about an element of nature that can hook you in, and that's kind of the space that I live in all the time.
So there are people making end of the world gardens on the back of what has happened with COVID-19. What are your thoughts on this, and what would your end of the world garden look like?
Yeah, look, end of the world gardens, I mean, it all began with toilet paper.
Yeah.
And, that was kind of people panicking. When people panic, you realise just how it exposes glitches in the system, and it came out through toilet paper, then it rolled on to pasta and rice and these staples that we kind of take for granted that we're just going to have. This is the reaction that people had to this situation. So, this idea of the pandemic end of the world garden, like, you don't just start it overnight, and you're not just growing your food in 2 days' time. But I'm not cynical and negative about it, because I think sometimes it takes, well, this is how nature works. Nature works with disturbance. Yeah. Nature clears things by things dying, things falling down, clears passageway to let more light in and new things to grow. So I look at it as a real positive to say to people, yeah, look, you've been drawn to this. You've in some cases panicked, in other cases just thought about it and thought, I'm going to get some chickens, and have my own eggs. And I go, well, you don't need a pandemic to drive that. But since it did, let's make sure that all of these people that suddenly want to start growing their own food and having chickens and doing all these things, we need to support them so that they have a good experience and that they move into it and consistently go deeper and deeper and deeper and make the broader, higher connections of how valuable this isn't not just because it was something that I could do while I couldn't go and do what I used to do, because what we used to do has a chance to change now. And that to me is the most positive and exciting part, that you can see in what's happened that nature has bounced back.
Yeah.
Just with a little bit of breathing space. Like we hold it down, you know, we hold nature down all the time. We've got our foot on it down like that and saying, you know, we're the boss. We're in charge of this. And suddenly you take the slipper off and let nature up for air, and you see how beautifully it can rebound. And I hope that these things can be led, and that we don't go down the road of, oh, we have to get back to where we were, which is a space in place and time, which bears no relevance to anything that's been, because we've got to look forward. And if we can look at this and say, all right, what is the new approach? Where are the new opportunities? How can we provide for everybody, but make a new and more inclusive future that doesn't always leave nature as the one to pick up the bill. I want to preface all of this by saying these are tough times. You know, people are really at the wall. People have hit the wall. People have gone over the edge. You know, businesses have gone bust. People are unemployed. There's no denying that this is a major impact. Like in my lifetime, in your lifetime, people will look at this as a new benchmark, whether it was a depression, whether it was the World War I or World War II, whatever it is. We're going to look at this and go, okay, that's had a massive impact, and you know, we can't fix it overnight, and we can't fix it by undoing the kind of positive things that have been established around our environment and around our communities, to just bulldoze everything for the sake of this attempt to make a rebuild happen faster.
So the FHS Eco team are hoping to make gardening videos highlighting our veggie gardens, whether they are work in progresses, finished or barely started, to try to motivate the community to join us on our journey. What would be your tips in creating a veggie garden, and would you care to make an appearance in a video?
I would be happy to make an appearance or support or behind the scenes advice in whatever way you like. I suppose the first thing I look at is, well, you need a space. Now, when you start to interpret what a space means, that space could mean land where you can actually grow in the soil.
Yep.
Or it could mean a space where you can actually grow above the land in containers if you don't have a plot where you can dig the earth. So really the first step is to determine where you're going to have the garden. And it could be a higgledy-piggledy mix of little corners of areas around the school, or it could be a back playground. It could be a variety of things. So that's the first physical assessment. And then prior to that, in terms of the planning, you want to say, well, what's our intent? Our intent is to grow a garden. Who's involved? In the team that's involved, what resources do they have? Who is a grower? Who has connection with a grower? Who are the skilled people in your set of friends and family and community that might be able to give you some assistance? You can establish valuable links that will help you get the basis right. You know, get your information and a little plan going, but not to over plan to the point that you go, well, we can't do anything until we have a cleared space with these raised garden beds and this and that. Because if you want to, you can literally start to garden in containers tomorrow. You can start to grow in buckets and turn them into little wicking beds. So there's a project to make the wicking beds. And then if you've got the wicking beds, it means that they don't have to be watered every single day, you know. So there's lots of ways that you can start to interpret what you want to do, how you want to do it, and who you want to do it with. So
No.
they're the first steps.
So, what are 3 things you think everyone should know about growing their own vegetables?
I think the most important things you want to establish is your understanding of the seasons.
Yep.
Like, where are we in the year and what's appropriate? A step back from that would be the soil. What are we going to grow our garden in? And then the step back from that is, where are we going to grow it? What's the microclimate? Like, is it on a windy, south-facing, shaded space, or is it north-facing with lots of light in a nice, protected kind of valley that doesn't get the strong wind? Is it coastal? Does frost sit there? All of those little microclimate, as in, yes, you're in Australia, yes, you're in Victoria, yes, you're in Frankston, but within Frankston there's lots of different little climates, let alone the microclimate of your house, because the sun rises on the east. Well, that means the bedrooms on that side get morning light, whereas the bedroom on that side gets smashed with the afternoon light. And so it's going to be hot in summer, whereas that's where you want to be in summer. That's a really valuable step to get underway, just that understanding of the microclimates. So then you'll make the right steps without having to double back. And so, because, you know, if it's a shady south-facing wind tunnel, don't waste your time. You're not going to grow vegetables there.
So gardening is seen as not so cool amongst many students. How do we change this attitude?
Yeah, good question. I suppose it's seen as not so cool because, like anything, most people haven't had a crack at it. And that's really why things are not so cool, because people don't know much about it and they kind of go, that's not cool.
Yeah.
But when you get into the beauty of a native bee that comes to this plant because you've planted it, but you can't make that come. You can't ring Deliveroo. You can't ring any of those delivery services. You know, these are the things that are real. These are the things that you can't buy. You can't buy some cheap Chinese-made piece of plastic or product that's going to satisfy your attention for 10 minutes and then it's now no longer the latest thing. It's the same with fashion. You know, people just buy stuff and then it's no longer fashion within weeks. This is stuff that you have to work at. And when you have to put in the time, you know, lots of people are into their sport and they put in the discipline, or they're into, you know, how their body looks and they go to all this trouble to look right and be buff and have the six-pack and all that. They've got the discipline. It's just hooking them into it. So I say to you, there is some really cool shit going on in nature. And when you do things like the wild pollinator count, and I turn to you and say, go and sit next to that plant for 10 minutes and just watch it, that flower, you're going to go, mate, I don't know what plants you're into, but I think they're a bit too green and you inhale them. And I go, no, because when you actually do stop and put your focus there, you see that there is a whole world going on that most of the time you're too busy sort of, you know, doing these ones and you'd never ever see it. We can say to people, you know, this is connected to your health more, that when you start to grow your own food, you understand that there's a big trade-off when you allow everyone else to deal with that part of your life. And it's the most important part of your life. The food choices that I make are regenerative and not degenerative to the land and to the people that are caught up in it.
So there are different types of gardeners. For instance, people who garden for beauty, people who garden for the environment, some for food. Which gardener are you?
All of the above. I just did a build out the front of my house where I took the trees that I lopped, which is beautiful native willow. And then I use that to build this nice bush, like a woven fence about that high, so that it protects the nature strip from walkers and dogs. And then I planted all these butterfly and pollinative and native insect attracting plants. But then I'm going to plant West Australian wildflowers in there as well, as a beautiful visual thing for people. So in that sense, I'm providing food for the insects and the birds. I'm providing craft, creativity and handwork, which takes us back to the oldest of cultures, where weaving is a hand, eye, mind, body, almost Zen activity, where when you get into it, and anyone that plats and anyone that works with wool or anyone that works with wood knows that you get into this zone. So there's part of that in the garden. There's the colour, which is the beauty. And when you have the beauty, you affect how people feel. And if I can have an impact on how people feel because of what I've planted, well, then that's doing its job, whether I'm sitting here in the house or whether I'm in Frankston, 1,000 miles away. Already the fence, people are going, wow. And it connects them to the past, and a past where we did more with our hands. And so that's why I consider myself to be a part of all of it, because there's the medicinal side of plants, there's the edible side of plants, there's the pollination and the habitat side of plants. So, I planted spiky plants in there, which are like, most people go, oh, but I don't want spiky plants. But no, that ain't for you, mate. This is for the little birds to be able to go to the big birds and the predators that might be coming on them, and they can go in there.
Yeah.
And have protection. So yeah, I'm a gardener across all those categories and a few more.